1:30 game, greatest setting in college football. Cannot wait. I think our guys, good bye week, got some work done, and anxious to have a good week of practice and go play.
What are the challenges with Coach you're obviously familiar with, and Jonathan Smith, and he's been around here going against your defense the last 4 years.
Yeah.
What are the challenges in preparing to play a coach like that?
I mean, there's a lot of talk about that. He knows this, he knows that, he knows, and I watch their tape, and I think there's some very close similarities. So things that we've talked about, paid attention to, and had to make a few tweaks.
What did you like most about Jonathan Smith when you were with him all those years?
Yeah, I mean, he's an awesome person. I mean, that's probably first and foremost what I always gravitate towards, and I think he's a heck of a coach. I really do. I mean, I really enjoyed working with him. I think we saw eye to eye on a lot of things, and I think kind of where we started with the offense to where it ended up when he left. I mean, I think it was really, really good.
How instrumental do you think he was to the development of Jake Browning over the years?
Yeah, he coached him as long as anybody, obviously, than his high school coach. But I think he did a great job with him. I think those two guys had a good rapport, and I think he was good. He's a really good guy. He's really easy to be around, and all those important things.
Expressed a desire to you to be a head coach. I mean, was that something that you saw?
Not really. I think this thing kind of fell in his lap, and certainly perked up. I think he was pretty locked in to being an OC, and I'm sure down the road and all those things, but I think he was pretty focused on that, and then that opportunity came, and he rolled with it.
Chris, as your head coach, as an assistant, when do you create your own identity after being an assistant coach and becoming a head coach?
Yeah. I think you're always evolving, and I think it takes a couple years. I think you do what you know, what you've seen, what works, and you structure it that way, and then you're continually tweaking and changing and saying that doesn't really work for me, and I think it's better this way and that way, and you go. But you structure things how you know them, how you've seen them work, and you do it that way, and then experience is the ultimate. Can be the real catalyst to help you continue to move forward.
The players you recruited, how much does that play into it, maybe after 2-3 years, whatnot, into?
Oh yeah, all that matters. You recruit to your philosophy and what you're all about, and that certainly helps and makes a big difference for sure.
You mentioned the idea of you just talked about the idea of the identity and things like that. And I remember you said it was like 18 to 24 months to build that culture and things like that. I mean, do you get the sense looking at them kind of from afar that they're kind of on a similar path?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about the inner workings. Only they know about that. Only I can tell about what shows up on tape. On offense, it looks really, there's a lot of things that, exactly what's going on there, and he's doing a great job with it. He really is, for the first year, to have those first-year players, and it looks like they're all in on that for sure. Now, in terms of the day-to-day workings and culture and all that, that's hard for me to know from the outside. But I know, offensive scheme-wise, which is his area of expertise. I mean, you know what he's doing.
You talked about that familiarity on both sides. How much of that ends up, do you feel like that's overplayed this week, or do you feel like that's an aspect of the game that maybe is important for the beginning, and then you kind of settle into things?
I mean, it still comes down to kids executing. It always does that. It's not we're not going to know what plays are being run, vice versa. There's schemes that we're familiar with, that they're familiar with, that they know will come out during the game. They would know that anyways. I mean, sometimes you can know too much. He knows a lot about us, but there's a lot of stuff if you're going to try to defend it all.
Like his defense, for sure, is going to be different. I mean, on you guys trying to attack them.
Yeah, so that's completely different.
And it's unique about their style.
Well, yeah, it's, you know, you get game, whatever this is, 11, you've seen a lot of styles and, you know, the similar blitz patterns. And so you see what they're, you know, what they're all about, and they'll bring blitzes from the boundary, blitzes from the field, you know, it's just percentages of what you're going to get there. And so you see how they're trying to keep you off balance with, you know, corner blitzes and those type of things that are a little bit unique to them.
Senior day, Saturday.
Yeah.
A lot of guys.
Yeah.
What's that moment like for you?
I hope that they're really focused on the game and not too wrapped up in, you know, the last one in Husky Stadium, because we got a lot more ball to play and practice here. But you really hope that, you know, they're thinking about, you know, appreciating, you know, all that they've been through and all that they've accomplished, the teammates and all the things that, you know, I kind of hope they're thinking about that a little bit this week as we prepare to play, you know, the best we can play.
Do you remember your last college game?
Kind of. I remember throwing an interception basically to lose, to get us knocked out of the playoffs. That's all I really remember. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in those days, you know, when you're in the playoffs, you know, one team wins it all. And so it's like, you know, that's the interesting thing about our situation. Like everybody else, whether it's NFL, FCS, the high schools, you know, there's like one team left standing. Unless you're one of those 4 teams right now, you know, a lot of them go to bowl games and half of them win. It's a completely different feeling than, you know, being in a tournament.
Could FBS adopt that FCS system, playoff system, you think? And would you be a fan of that?
It sure seems like it could, you know. I mean, there's just so much politics involved. I mean, that's the one thing that I've learned about this college football. Like when, you know, certain things, I mean, there is so many politics and everybody's trying to defend their turf, that it is, you get a little glimpse of probably what it's like back in Congress. You know, it's like, yeah, nothing can really get done when everybody's just trying to protect themselves and their own interests.
How different has your view changed about that between Boise State and here? Because this is a program with a higher profile, and I'm just wondering if the order, or even when you're playing days, the orderly system of playoffs had greater appeal or lesser appeal now than then?
Yeah, I don't know if it's really changed. I just think it's interesting that we're the only ones that, you know, it's the compromise. It's the great compromise. We still got our bowl games and everybody gets to go to bowl games, and then you got these other teams just talking about, and so I just think that's really interesting that we're the only ones that do that. And I think bowl games are awesome. I mean, we all grew up with those, and you know, from fans watching it on New Year's Day and through the month and all those type of things. But it's just changed so dramatically, you know. There wasn't nearly as many, and now there's too many. Yeah, it's just different, and it'll be interesting to see how this evolves.
Would you advocate for an expansion to 8 and then 16?
Yeah, I think every coach. I don't think there's many coaches that aren't in for like, can we expand this a little bit? Now, I'm not as naive to sit up here and say that I got all the answers how to do that. I mean, I get that. I think you could put it together pretty easy, but then again, there's a lot of players involved that are like, well, wait, you know, so much comes down to money, and you know, these bowl games make money for people and all those type of things, and that's when people. I mean, just everybody, you know, we all know it's like, it's not about money. It's always about money.
Did you watch the Stanford Beaver game live Saturday?
I watched some of it.
Is it hard to evaluate a team during a 31-point loss like that, or?
I mean, we have all their tapes. So we've been evaluating and paying attention to that. I do think it's interesting to watch a game in its continuous fashion. You know, how they got, you know, we watch so many cut-ups that all of a sudden you're watching the offensive side of the ball and the ball ends up on the they start a drive on the 35 or something. It's like, well, how did that happen? Well, because of a big kick return or an interception or something, and that changes the mojo of the game. So it is interesting to watch the whole game and, you know, how to evaluate it there. I think it's a little bit of a hard game for us to evaluate the Stanford game because Stanford is unique in terms of how they're going about it on offense. You know, they throw 4 balls to the tight end, you know, that are all contested, that he makes unbelievable plays. The 6-7 tight, you know, it's like, well, we're not doing that. I mean, it's like you're always looking like, how does this tape help you? You know, how does this equate to us and how does it help us? When I watch that tape, I'm like, well, that didn't have anything to do with us.
Last week about Trey coming back, and then he announced that he was returning for a 5th year.
Yeah.
Talk about just kind of what that news is like to have that conversation with him and get that news. And then do you still expect him to play this year, or is that kind of a...
Yeah, we'll see. You know, we're kind of on a week-to-week basis with him, and we'll kind of see how that all goes.
Stanford's tight ends did to Oregon State last weekend. Does that almost reflect even more on what your defensive backs were able to do last game?
Well, they did some of that to us as well. I mean, the kids were draped all over those tight ends, and Costello threw it in there, and it's like, how do you defend that? I know we were talking about it on defense, like down the road. It's like, okay, next step with this is this, but it is no one's really been able to cancel those guys out. So it's unique, you know, to have 2 big guys like that are true pass catchers, that they just keep making the same plays game after game, and no one's really kind of cracked the code on how to defend that.
What do you expect from this group coming back off the bye week? At this point kind of in the season?
Yeah, I think it was really, you get this deep into the season, you kind of get rejuvenated a little bit. They had some time off, and we didn't practice a bunch, but when we did, it was really productive, and so it felt pretty good. And so I think those guys will have, you know, a couple good practices here this week. It's not going to be for being, you know, there's no excuses for being too tired or anything like that. And so here we go for we got 2 games left. You know, we see where that whole thing takes us, but, you know, it's a good chance to get rested up.
What do you see with Luton? What kind of jumps off the page with him?
With who?
Jake Luton.
Yeah. He can sling it. I mean, he's one of those big, tall, over the top. I mean, you let him set his feet, he throws it as well as anybody. You know, you watch the Colorado game, and they got so far behind, and then, you know, at halftime he comes in and he's standing back there just making all the throws, and it's like, where'd this guy come from? It was really, really impressive. I mean, you know, you always wonder, like, well, how did that happen? You know, different games, like they were so far behind, and one of the reasons they came back is, I mean, he made some really, really impressive throws, and if you let him set his feet, he can sling it as good as anybody.
Their run game with Jefferson and Pierce, do they remind you of any style you've seen this year? No, I don't know about style of backs. I mean, I think he's just a really good runner. I mean, schemes look familiar, and then you see what a good back can do with some of those schemes, and it's impressive for a freshman to do what he's done. He's been extremely durable, and both of them are effective, but that's a guy that is impressive.
Last season you had the bye coming off of the Arizona State game, which was kind of just tough all around. Is there a different feeling when you're coming off of a win, sitting on that for 2 weeks?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably. I mean, there's nothing like, losing and have to sit around for 2 weeks, and but it was just good to get back to work and kind of go back to some basics and get the kids really rested up is probably the good thing, and maybe because it's just so much later in the year.
That idea is banged up. Just you talked many times about how that you'd love to have the bye earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But that being said, how can you flip it and now turn that into a positive? Yeah,
I mean, I don't think there's anything to flip. I mean, I think the guys feel pretty good that they got this time off, and so it was I think we used the time wisely. Like I said, I mean, they lifted a little bit, and we're not out of shape or anything like that, and got rested up. So, I mean, I think it was much needed. Might not have been as needed had we had it earlier in the year, but certainly now it's good to have.
As a head coach, do you feel like you have any kind of responsibility to provide professional development opportunities, or I guess help guys who are on your staff who want to be a head coach someday, maybe pursue that goal?
Absolutely. Every one of them. You know, for me, I think about our coaches as much as I think about our players in terms of how we run this program, the things that I say to them, the things that we're all about, for sure.
What does that look like? Like when guys are here, like what are those kind of, I don't know if it's lessons or notes you give them, or
I mean, it's every day. I mean, that's what our program's all about, whether it's for our players. You know, so many team meetings. I've probably had more coaches that I've been with over the times that I got more out of the team meetings than probably the players have when I'm talking to the players about how we're going to do things. And so, you know, that's one of the reasons that I stay on the philosophy that we're on. It's not just about the players. It's always about, you know, us as coaches first. I like to pay close attention to the philosophy that we're all about, first and foremost for myself, to continually remind myself about what I want to be about, what I want this program to be about, how I think principles of success carry over to all parts of your life. And so that's what I do, kind of nonstop.
How do you kind of manage that balance of, you know, you've got a really good assistant, obviously you'd like him to be here.
I've said this a bunch of times. My job is to help people like achieve what they want in life. I can't do it for them, but we try to set this up, whether it's our players. If something's better for their family and them, they need to go. And there's the next coach that will get in here and we'll develop those guys, and that's how it is. So I don't think twice about that. If it's better for them. Now, I think what is better sometimes, and it's their decision. You know, if they want my 2 cents, I'll always put it in. But I see a lot of coaches make poor decisions, and I don't think that situation's better because it's more money or because like the title is different. It's like, can you learn? Can you grow? Can you be set up for success as you go from this? And so I see that. I'm not just talking about our guys. I just see it across the country. I'm like, why would that be a better thing? Whether it's being with us or somewhere else, it's like, I sure wouldn't do that. But everybody's got to kill their own snakes in life, right?
What was kind of the scope and tenor of the conversations that you and Jonathan had when he told you that there was a possibility he would be moving on?
You know, I mean, I don't remember exactly, but I think with the ties to that place and, you know, all that, I think he was, you know, really intrigued by it, obviously. So.
What have you seen Jimmy Lake, obviously this season, the defense just continues to get better and better, especially the defensive backs. It's kind of, what have you seen from that defensive back group, especially because Elijah Molden, Keith, a lot of those younger guys have stepped up this year. As that group continues to develop, what have you seen from both Lake and the players?
Well, I think the fact that those guys you were talking about that were all true freshmen last year that didn't start but played some good reps, you know, that's when now we're almost at the end of the season, so those guys are not like young players at all. I mean, I think if you count the reps that they've had over the years and game reps and then factor in practice reps, these are pretty experienced players, and that's really like how you'd like to have it, because you know late in the season you're not playing with the same crew that you started with. That just doesn't happen, or not often. And so, you know, the plan is kind of always like that, is we got to get a bunch of guys ready to play when you're playing with as many DBs as we always play with.
Will Harris in his first year, kind of how have you seen him grow with that defensive back group more specifically?
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job. Just, you know, he's fit nicely into that DB room. He's fit nicely in with our staff, and I think he's really learning and paying attention to, you know, how we do it, and it's been really, really smooth.
Chris, how does the early signing period kind of change the intensity in the office this time of year? Normally you'd have until February to kind of get all that taken care of, but it's coming up in the next month or so.
Yeah.
Kind of change the atmosphere.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't really feel like the intensity, because I always feel like as soon as the season's over, it's just like, I mean, we're obviously recruiting every day here, but then when you can go out into contact, it doesn't really feel like it's different. I mean, you'd think that because there's this signing period, but it just feels like you were doing the same thing for a longer period of time. You know, you got the kids that are committed, that all the guys come in and try to like change their mind. It's, you know, it's all the ridiculous stuff that goes on that's like, really? I mean, yeah.
I know you can't talk about it. We saw the news of an offer for a local kid over the weekend. How do you know when it's time to offer a player?
When you've done all your, you know, homework and research. I mean, that's how we do it. I mean, we're probably one of the, you know, few crews that really slows down, and we don't have problems offering early, but we're not just doing it because a guy's got other offers or anything like that. You know, we just want to feel like we've done good homework and the guy would fit us, and we like how they play.
What is your general philosophy on recruiting quarterbacks and evaluating them maybe earlier than most because of the competition?
I mean, I'll say it, I've said it a million times. I mean, I wish we had restrictions on us when we could offer. Because I think sometimes that can put pressure on kids themselves the earlier they are. I think it changes a lot of things. I think it's a burden that seems great early on and late it's not. But, you know, you've seen these guys long enough and you've watched guys develop, and you're just trying to, you know, put 2 and 2 together and see if the math adds up, and if it does, you go.
How important is it to have that anchor, the quarterback position, to kind of set up the class and build a class around that guy?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's no harder position to get right. Just ask the guys in the NFL. So you're trying to do homework, and you know, I think there's certain characteristics that everybody's into besides the physical characteristics, and then you just kind of keep wondering how the guy's gonna develop and progress. And some guys do a great job with it, and some guys, I mean, that's, you know, that's human nature in life, and you're trying to watch that. But yeah, it's the world we live in here in college football.
What restrictions, you mentioned restrictions on when you can offer, if you were in charge of the world?
Well, I just think, you know, some of these kids are so young when they're getting offered, and you know, it's just interesting, that whole offer thing. I remember, you know, Rich Rodriguez said, you know, a handful of years ago, you know, you want to put an end to this early offer and stuff, have no signing date. If you want to offer a kid, he can sign right then and there, and watch these offers get cut 3/4. And, you know, at first you're like, yeah, what? And then you start thinking about it, and it's like, yeah, you start offering all these offers and that kid can sign that, you're not going to just throw these things out like they're candy.
So the previous regime here offered a 12-year-old who's now...
I'm just saying, everybody's got their style, and it's, you know, the philosophy and all those things. I just think if you did it that way, I don't think you'd be seeing them much of that.
If quarterback's the toughest position to recruit, where does like defensive tackle fit into that, do you think, in terms of finding guys for your system? And
well, they're just hard to find. We know exactly what they look like. They're playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you know where those guys are, tell us. We'll try to go get them. So, I mean, yeah, they're just hard to find. I mean, those big guys that got twitch to them and, you know, can move mountains, they're just hard to find.
Signing period, how much does it affect you guys? Like, because every bye week, I know you guys want to go out and try to maximize your opportunities there. Does that get sped up, or does that change at all when you know, with the early signing period?
No, we only have so many eval days that we can be out. We can only go to school one time, so you usually use the, you know, those days that you have. You know, a big chunk of it comes in the bye week because you can get everybody out, but you're sending coaches sporadically out through the season, and so whether you have it early or late, you usually end up using the 40 days. You're still just really kind of evaling kids, you know, in the fall, whether they're underclassmen or guys that are seniors and those type of things. You're still, that's what it's for. So it doesn't really change. You get the 40 days and 40 or 42 days, and we use most of them.
But I mean, especially with you guys trying to wrap that class up as as much as you can. I mean, it feels like you guys have wanted to kind of wrap things up in mid-December if you can as much as possible. Does that feel like it's more feasible because the prospects and the high school players and their counselors are all kind of geared toward that calendar now?
Yeah, I think, well, we'll see. How many years has it been, 1 or 2? Yeah, God, it seems like forever. Yeah, just everybody's, the majority's leaning towards signing earlier, and I think that's great, why they made the early signing period, because there's so many kids that were committed, and that's what most of them are doing, and so those that have it figured out, you sign early, and I think we've liked it, and then there's a handful of guys, and you kind of reassess where you're at and go from there.
How much does enrolling early factor into how hard you try to recruit a certain player?
Enrolling
early?
Oh, no, it doesn't. I think we're going to have more, probably than we've had.
It seems like it's happening
more
and more.
And it is happening more and more. But for me, I am right down the middle on it. I mean, if a kid wants, that's what he and his family are all about, awesome. And if a guy wants to stay in high school and play basketball and run track and go to the prom and all those things, I'm all about that as well. So to me, it really just depends on where the kid's mind is on this whole thing. I mean, high school goes super fast and college goes super fast, and I'm just about maximizing your time in these short windows that we have.
Does the legacy kid, is that even factoring in the evaluation? Does that make it sometimes even tougher when you have a kid whose father played here?
I'm not sure what he's talking about. He's getting too close to what I can talk about, so next question.
And having fellow former coaches now be at other schools, does that ever come back into play, good and bad, in terms of maybe when they're here trying to get them to recruit the way you want to, and then hoping that kind of branches off into recruiting positive at other schools down the road?
You're talking about guys that have been our staff? Yeah. No, I don't like it at all, because they know exactly what our style is, and they usually implement that, and I don't want to have the same styles and all those type of things. And I like it when our guys get jobs like on the East Coast. I don't think that's happened, but that's what I'd really like.
You said you were maybe targeting this week for Shane Bowman to come back. Is that still possible?
Yep, I think he's getting close. We'll see.
Has the four-game freshman eligibility thing had an impact that you can evaluate at this point in the season?
For us, it's had, we've played less true freshmen like they've played, like using this year, which has been really interesting. Like, I don't think we anticipated that going into this. That we've, I don't know if we have a guy that is going to play that's a true freshman that's actually going to play count this year. But we've played a handful of these guys, and I don't think we really anticipated that going in. Now, we would do that, need-based and all those type of things, but for whatever reason, just how it's all kind of shook down, we haven't done that just yet. That's probably been the biggest thing, the biggest maybe unexpected thing with our situation this year. It's been good though. I mean, it's been nice because we've been able to plan ahead and kind of say, hey, we want to get this guy ready in 2 weeks, because I think you kind of need a little time. It's very hard to say, okay, well, yeah, we got this guy, let's just throw him, because a lot of times, they're on a scout team and it's completely different than when all of a sudden you have to know what your assignment is, and that ball that was just completed on you really matters now, and all those type of things. You got out of your lane on a coverage team, and it's like, it's not quite that simple. So it's been nice to be able to plan a little bit.
Just getting Hunter some game action and then getting the bye for him. Where's he at now after?
Yeah, I think he's making really good progress, and yeah, we're kind of rolling with him.